the ELS to SBR Lodgement Report. Hello, my name is Tanya and we're going to have a look at the agenda now for the ELS to SBR Lodgement Report. Firstly, we'll revisit the why would we need a report, what does the report do, and how to run the report, tips on using the report, and additional resources that you might need. Let's look at the why. As you are all aware, the 1st of April, yes, April Fool's Day, was the first day when the ATO would only accept forms listed here via the Practitioners Lodgement Service known as the PLS. It wasn't an April Fool's joke, it was real. So we acknowledge that there has been some challenges along the way as the PLS replaces the previously known Electronic Lodgement Service or the ELS. As your tax software provider, we use Standard Business Reporting, known as SBR, lodgement method to prepare the form for you to electronically submit on the PLS. As the 15th of May and the 5th of June lodgement deadlines are fast approaching, you may have a number of returns that have been prepared earlier in the year that may still need to be changed from ELS to the SBR lodgement method. In order to do that, you will need to reopen the return in an editable state, make the change, complete the SBR validation, and then prepare the return for lodgement. Many of you would have been making that transition over the last couple of weeks. And as I said, we acknowledge that we've had some challenges in that process. To help you identify what is left in your database, we've provided the following reporting tool to either give you peace of mind that you've covered everything and you're over the hump and on the home straight, or you've still got some work to do, but we've identified what work it is you need to do to change those returns from ELS to SBR so they can be lodged. The file is named 2017 ELS to SBR Lodgement Report.xlsm, which is a macro-enabled Excel workbook. This is a very simple reporting tool that will enable you to transition in this period to identify those returns still outstanding that need ELS change to SBR. For each return, you will need to open that in the editable status as mentioned previously. So how does the tool work? Well, you need to save the file to your CADV 2000 folder. We suggest you open Central and log into the APS Central database to ensure that you have a current database connection. Then open the Excel-enabled macro workbook and refresh the data. And we'll go through this process and show you now. So just as I described, I've copied the 2017 ELS to SBR report into the CADV 2000 folder, and I've also opened my Central Database application list. So I can now open the file. If it's been used before, you'll see information in here. If it's a fresh file, it will start off with no rows in there, and I can simply delete the rows if there aren't rows displaying. Select the refresh data, and that will bring in all the returns that are now in your database that are marked as ELS. In this case, we can see the return name, the client ID, the return type, which is the type of form that it's using between the Elite Reckon Elite or the Reckon APS tax form, which we've called Advanced in this query here. You have the particular form type, the status of the return, which also displays the process, the TFN, whether the return has been marked as private, you'll see an ID number in here. We've included this in the query so that your lodgement team can also deal with private returns to know whether they are also marked as ELS. Then the year to confirm that it is only the 2017 year that we are returning in the query, and information to help you work through the process. The tax agent, the partner, the manager, whether you've used the hold lodgement date in Tax Manager, and the ATO due date. In this case, we're firstly going to focus on all the return types that are Elite. So for all the Elite return types, you will need to go in and open these returns and change the status. So if we have a look at this return, we go into Tax Manager. The return itself is already at the started step. If it wasn't, we would have to change it from one of the steps that it has been set to back to started. It could be any editable status. Once you've done that, you'll need to open the return. Upon opening the return, you'll need to check the ATO format is now SBR format. That should happen automatically as your date on your computer will now be past the 31st of March. That was the lodgement date for an individual return type. You'll need to revalidate the return and check that there are no SBR errors. Once you're happy with that, you may close the return and save it. If the return was signed, then you would change that back to that particular status. Our spreadsheet has still been opened, so the easiest way to refresh this would be to not save it, reopen the spreadsheet. If I'd saved it previously, it would have been blank, so it would have come in blank. Otherwise, delete the row and refresh. You'll see now that my refresh data has no return types left as elite. So all the elite returns will need to do that process of changing manually. If the return type is an advanced return type and the form type is an individual, then there is an SBR bulk update tool available to you to convert these returns en masse. So if you've got a handful, you might do them manually, but if you have a lot of them, then the tool can be used to update the individual advanced form types or the Reckon APS tax types in bulk. For all other return types, in our case here I have some company return types, they will need to be adjusted manually. So you might have some company or trusts left that were done quite early in the year that you will need to also manually update. So in this case, I'll go and do CR Holdings manually and show you that process in the advanced form type. So in Tax Manager, open the client. If the return again was at another status, we need to pick an editable status for that to return to. So these are the steps I'm doing manually. If it was an individual return, the bulk tool will do this step for you automatically without you having to do it manually. You will open the return once it's in that editable status. Upon opening the return, now that we are in the 2017 SBR lodgement method has been selected, to be certain you can double check it, or in this version you may also click the refresh validation to check that the ELS to SBR validation process has completed. Where you have any SBR errors popping up, you will need to address these before you can complete the return. In this case, the difference has picked up that we need to correct the company signing area. We need to name it the person that is signing that declaration. So that is a change in the ELS to SBR validation. Doesn't mean that it was wrong before, it just means the ATO have changed the rules in the way that the returns are validated. Once they have been corrected and the SBR warnings may also be reviewed, then the return is ready to complete your process and return it to which state it was before. In the state where you are using the complete on these returns, you would need to press the complete and then do your pre-lodge check to be able to check any further SBR validations and ready for lodgement. Save the changes of the return, and if it was at another status, then change it back to that status. Come back to your reporting tool and simply again delete the rows. If you've got your filter on, select them all and delete the rows and refresh your data. You can see now that we are left with less returns and there's no filters on once we've refreshed that data completely. So if you don't save the report, every time you reopen, it will refresh when you click the button without you having to delete the rows. So you can see now that we're only left with 6 returns, and we could run the bulk update tool on 4 of these returns. So if you are using Advanced, then the bulk update tool, there'll be a separate video to show you how to do that. If you were doing these manually, you would repeat the process for all of these returns and change them from ELS to SBR. So in summary, the time to act is now. So all the 2017 lodgements must use the SBR method. Existing returns on ELS need to be manually updated to the SBR format before they can be lodged. For anything that the report tool shows you that is advanced and an individual, you can use the bulk update tool for this, and there's a separate video for that process. The returns must be validated in the SBR lodgement method before they can be lodged. Use the report to consolidate where you're at. And also check out go.reckon.com Practice Hub, our website for the latest tax updates and other important information from APS to yourselves. Thank you for your time. We hope you find this useful.